I guess it's me. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Tough Men of Faith.
You think this is our first time?
Yeah, I missed the cue there.
Welcome,
Anyway,
Nick.
Welcome back to Tough Men of Faith, episode 10. What are we talking about today?
Well, before we get into that,
Okay.
I'm sitting here looking at the table, and you brought us some gum today. Bazooka gum.
I found it at a gas station.
I haven't had it since I was a kid in Little League.
It had so much dust on it. I think it's an original package.
Did it really have dust on it?
From the 90s, yeah. You could throw this stuff down on a concrete sidewalk, and I'm pretty sure the sidewalk would break.
Yeah, it was bad.
I'm pretty sure it's from the 90s.
I tried to chew a piece. I couldn't.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the comic. Still had the comic.
Yeah, the comic was good.
We
I
have
like
that.
We were starting to bring snacks in here.
Well, we have some. I brought some turkey links in
The
here.
snacks are getting healthier. We started with Big Deborah's 3 months ago. Now we got turkey links, or turkey sausages,
Yeah.
and bazooka gum.
Yeah.
The bazooka is probably not healthy, but
It's healthy. I'm not going to chew it.
nobody's going to chew it.
We'll have a vegetable
terrible.
tray next week. And,
Yeah.
I mean, it's January, so this is when you're supposed to eat healthy. By February, we'll be back to a Little Deborah's.
Yeah, I made some New Year's resolutions, and
Did you really?
I'm a week in. I'm sticking to them. So
Yeah?
Well, 2 weeks in.
2 weeks
something
in,
like
yeah.
that. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Me and the wife are working out. I'm trying to live in balance. We talked about that.
We did.
I don't know what, 4 or 5 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Talked about living in balance, and so yeah, we're trying to watch our diets a little bit.
Okay, good.
Well, trying to watch our diets a lot of it.
Yeah.
And we quit a few things and started a new thing
Yeah.
or a few things, and look at us go.
What does your workout routine look like for you?
So right now, it's just because it's chilly outside.
Mm-hmm.
I go home at night. I will ride the stationary bicycle about 10 miles.
Oh, wow.
I don't get anywhere when you ride a stationary bicycle. But,
That's true. Do you have one of those with the screen where someone's yelling at you to pedal harder?
not yet. So we looked at those last night. My sister has one.
Yeah.
And my brother has one.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know you could link those. Was it Peloton?
Peloton,
Yeah, you can link them to your brother or your sister or your friend or whoever else.
Yeah.
You can see their workouts or work out with them. I think that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of gives you that, what's the word I'm looking for?
Accountability?
Yeah, accountability.
Yeah, like if you know, hey, your sister and your brother are going to be on here at 8 o'clock, and you're
Right.
supposed to be on there. If you're not on there, it's going to...
Yeah, if they're going to look
Call
at
you
it
up,
and
like, hey, where you at?
Yeah, exactly. To see that I skipped it or didn't do it. Or
Yeah.
the other part of it is, too, if you're buying an $1,100 stationary bicycle, you better use the stupid thing.
That's
So,
true. And use
why I
it for
have a
more than
bottle
just
one.
hanging your clothes on or something.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they're expensive, but
Yeah.
if it gets you
But yeah, so
going.
I've been going home and doing that, doing squats and lunges.
Yeah.
I think we talked about that on one of the past episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And just trying to do a little more than what I've done in the past,
Good.
which is not much.
But hey, you're sticking with it a couple weeks in.
Yeah, a couple weeks in.
You've told our podcast audience now, so
Yeah.
you have a lot of accountability to keep going because
Yeah.
come I don't know,
Yeah, we'll check back in.
August,
about
I'll
3
check
months,
back in
6
and be like,
months,
hey, man,
9
you still
months,
riding that
and-
bicycle every night? And
Yeah.
You'd be like, what bicycle?
Yeah, exactly. The
No,
one we hang our
sold in the
laundry
garage
on.
sale this summer. All right, I'm pretty excited about the topic today. We were texting back and forth a couple days ago about what we're going to talk about this week, and
Yeah, are you ready?
I find it an interesting topic.
I do too.
And really, it could be more than one episode, but we need the right guests to bring in sometime too about this. But this talking about not letting your past define you.
I was thinking of one when I was taking some notes the other day for
Yeah.
this. So anyway, the topic is don't let your past define you.
Yeah.
And I heard a really interesting speaker last summer, September, October.
Okay.
I think his name was Howard, and he kind of talked about generational curse.
Oh,
And
yeah.
Let me find my notes here real quick.
Yeah. So we brought him in. We did a men's camp out at my family's farm.
Yeah, exactly.
For a night, and we brought him down to talk.
Yeah,
We'll bring him in on the podcast.
we need to.
I will make a note of that right now.
He is phenomenal
We'll bring him
to
in.
listen to.
Yeah, but he talked about that generational.
I could have conversations with that guy for
Yeah.
hours on end, no problem. And
Yeah.
you'd feel better walking away
So
from the conversation.
we are now teasing a podcast that we hope happens. So
What's that?
We got to make this happen.
Oh yeah, we're gonna make it happen. I'll go talk to him.
Okay.
I don't know him that well yet, but I'll
Yeah.
talk to him.
You have some notes
But
you want
anyway,
to talk
yeah,
about?
he was talking about kind of generational curse. How a lot of people want to do more, want to do better, want to go in a better direction, but they're not living up to standards set forth by God, but they're living up to standards set forth by man. I think that when you try and live your life to standards set by men and not God, you kind of fall into that generational curse where things just kind of keep going wrong and
Yeah.
they just always go wrong, and
And then once
not
they
much
go,
you can do to change it.
they go wrong, and then you just kind of accept this is who I am.
Yeah, this is normal.
I'll always be a failure.
Yeah.
Things will never go good for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You start to think that that's normal. This is just, it is what it is. And it's like, man, if you just quit making stupid decisions.
Yeah, or I think we look at our past. Do you have things in your past when you think about it, it
Oh,
makes
yeah.
you just cringe,
I have lots of those things.
or it's embarrassing, right?
Yeah.
I can't believe I did that,
Right.
and then you just kind of live that's who I am, and maybe you did that several times. That's just who I'm always going
Yeah,
to
maybe
be.
you do that for years on end.
Yeah.
But one day something changes, and maybe you start to look at different ways of saying things, doing things, living. It's kind of funny how when you make a change and keep making changes in positive directions, how it just kind of snowballs.
It does.
I never thought I would be doing anything with, ministry whatsoever.
Yeah.
That just wasn't me. I look back at my past and I can cringe. I have some cringeworthy things.
There's a reason we didn't start with illustrations today.
Yeah, right, exactly.
We could both share some, right?
Yeah, we could, but we don't have to. Then
No.
That's the best part about Christianity is we don't have to live in the past or dwell in the past. We can be forgiven for everything that we've ever done. That's even anything.
I mean, that's good. We won't, but we could wrap the podcast up there. Like,
We can stop.
You
now.
don't have to live with the sins from your past.
Right.
Like, they did not define you.
Yep.
I've always thought of it like you are not your past mistakes, and even if others say you are. You're not.
Right.
And even if you're the one telling yourself you are, you're not.
Yeah.
Like your past mistakes don't define who you have to be.
Yep.
Now, they do shape you, though, right?
Absolutely.
Like the mistakes you've made shape you as a
Yeah,
person to who you are today.
Just look at the perspective that you gain
Yeah.
from making those mistakes.
Yeah. But you don't have to dwell on them or
Right.
stay there.
Right. Exactly.
Even for me, it's always like other people will try to push you like, you're always going to be like this, right?
Yeah.
So, you said you're going to change, you never change. You said you'd stop doing that, you never stop doing it. And you say that every year, it's a new year, you're going to stop at this, and you don't.
Yeah.
But the truth is, as a Christian, like your sins are forgiven, and
Yep.
that doesn't have to be your future. Your
Like,
past doesn't have to be your future.
Like 2 Corinthians 5:17.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has passed away. Behold, the new has come.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, you start really kind of diving just into that right there. The old you, the guy that made those mistakes, the guy that did all the cringeworthy stuff, he's gone.
Yeah.
He's no more.
The other thing about, you think about your past, like we all have it. We all have a past.
Yeah.
But how do you use that past to encourage, mold, mentor the next generation?
Right.
Right? So you have some cringeworthy stories.
Yeah.
But you also know some 18-year-olds that maybe you can save from having those cringeworthy
Yeah,
stories.
exactly.
and go
Hey,
a
let me
different
tell you
direction.
how I screwed this up.
Yeah.
Let me tell you a little bit about my past and what I've done. And that's kind of like we talked about Howard earlier, but he kind of shared a bunch of stories like that too at that men's retreat that we did, last year. And it's like some of the things that he's done or been through, I've currently found myself in, or I found myself in the past. And it's like, wait a minute, let me take some advice from another guy that's done this and is still going in
Yeah.
the right direction, and maybe I can take something from that.
Yeah, as men, I think it's not right, but there's some things we just have to learn on our own.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, but hopefully you do listen to guys and you go a different direction.
Yeah.
Like, there's things I've learned. Like I've watched some other guys do some really dumb stuff. I'm like, I don't want to do that.
Right.
Because I see the price they paid because of it, and I've
Yeah.
learned from it.
Are you
There's
looking at
other
me and my black eye because of the things I say on here about my wife?
Well, I was thinking about you. Like I should have learned that the best way to get out of attic is to go down the ladder all the way.
Wow.
But instead of learning that, I went ahead and now I learned. I mean, nothing
Always
like at
bringing
least
up
I
old
went.
stuff.
At least I went feet first.
Right.
So I mean, I learned a little bit from you.
So I had a new listener this week, a friend of mine that hadn't listened to the podcast before, and he just texted me out of the blue. We haven't been talking, texting, anything all day long. And he says, Kool-Aid Man out of the attic? That's awesome. And I was like, wait, you listen to the podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're new to the podcast, you go back. You can listen to one of them, season 1, about Nick jumping headfirst out of his attic and getting several staples in his head. And
Great.
it's not been the same since.
Here we go
but-
again. He hasn't been the same.
But you
since.
learn from the past, right?
Yeah,
I mean, you
absolutely.
learn from other guys, and learning that you don't always have to be that way. When I was thinking about this, when we were texting, I think I even brought it up to you.
Yeah.
That in Scripture, there's a guy named Paul.
Yeah.
Just an interesting story because he wrote in Philippians 3:13, the one thing I do, forgetting what lies behind and straining forward to what lies ahead.
Right.
So I love that he says, hey, I'm forgetting about what lies behind. There's a lot going on in that verse there. But
Yep.
one thing when I think about Paul is that this dude, like he's like the rock star Christian, if you would. He wrote a big chunk of the New Testament and
Yep.
all these things. But before he became a Christian, he was like killing Christians.
Yeah, he was killing people, right?
So like Stephen, a martyr in the book of Acts, if you read the book of Acts, you see that Stephen gets stoned to death, or they throw stones at him and kill him.
Yeah.
Paul was there at the time, and he held coats so that they could throw stones at him. Like he was leading the charge. He'd be the guy that was kicking in doors and going in houses and arresting Christians so they could be arrested for being Christians and stoning them and
Yeah.
all these awful things. So if you can imagine when Paul becomes a Christian, now these
Right.
people who have been killed, he was now going to their house as a fellow Christian and hanging out with them, going to church with them and teaching them.
Yeah.
And so if you
Talk
think about a guy,
with some cringeworthy stuff.
think about his past, like
Right.
this, the practical, like, okay, they knew him, like, and they knew his reputation.
Yep.
And now he's hanging out with them. And so now he writes something like, hey, I'm forgetting what lies behind me because I'm straining to what lies ahead. And like,
Right.
if Paul can say that,
Yeah.
then what's in my past that God can forgive and I can move forward in a different direction?
Yeah, exactly. I was kind of thinking about that too. Is not only don't live in the past, but don't let the past influences around you define you.
Yeah.
God calls Christians to be different, and we're not supposed to be of this world, just in this world.
Yes, like you're defining you. I love that they don't define who you are. They're not your identity.
Right.
Your identity is wrapped up in I am who Jesus says I
Yeah.
am.
I was thinking seems like I work with a lot of people. I work with a lot of people and influences, and I try not to let any of those influences kind of influence myself.
Yeah.
You just can't let all those outside forces control you or control the way you think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I heard the quote this week that said that your life is always moving in the direction of your strongest thoughts.
Yeah.
So what are you thinking about? And the
Right.
Bible talks about that, right? I'm not just saying like, hey, think positive and life's going to go great.
Right.
No, you think positive, but you still may have a car wreck tomorrow. You
Yeah.
think positive, a loved one can still die. So bad things can still happen to you,
Right.
but your life is moving in direction of your strongest thoughts. So
Yeah.
when we're looking at it today of what does your past look like, if I'm just dwelling on, man, I've done some stupid stuff, or I did a lot of stupid stuff today,
Yep.
versus dwelling on God still loves me.
Right.
I'm still his child, and he tells me that tomorrow when I wake up, his mercies are new every day.
Yeah.
So tomorrow's a new day.
Yep. Isaiah 43, 18 and 19. Forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. I don't think that's all of it, but that's all I wrote down.
Yeah, there's a little bit more there,
Yeah,
but
there's probably a little bit more there.
But I mean, you look at the book of Isaiah. Yeah, I mean, you see that hey, Jesus is coming, and he's coming to forgive you of your sins and
Yeah.
to give you a reason to not have to dwell on your past. Because truth is, he's taken that.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, he's taken, and not only does he, he takes our sin on the cross, but he also takes the shame and the guilt that comes with it.
Yeah.
That we try to hold on to.
Yep. It's amazing. You ever think about that? That we hold on to the shame and the guilt from things that we've already let go. But I guess we haven't fully let them go for holding on to a few parts of it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it's maybe our pride because we think what other people think of us. Like,
Yeah.
Man, if people find out that I've done this,
Right.
they're not going to respect me.
Yeah.
But I think what helps me is that, like, well, Jesus knows what I did,
Right.
and he still loves me.
Yeah.
And so if Nick thinks I'm a dirtbag,
Who cares what Nick thinks?
that Nick needs to take that
That's
up.
Nick's problem.
That's Nick's problem. Yeah. Yeah, I wrote down just a few like practical things.
Yeah, what you got?
Like how can I like change in this area? How can I do better?
Yeah.
One thing I wrote down is just to like really meditate on mistakes don't define me.
Yeah.
Like to really like think through what that means.
Right. Yeah, we all make mistakes.
We all make them.
Don't let that be your defining characteristic, the
Yeah.
mistakes that you've made.
Yep.
Especially if you realize it, and you're trying to move forward and be better.
That was kind of leads into my second thing was like mistakes don't define me, but what has happened in my past doesn't have to happen in my future.
Right.
So even if it's happened multiple times in my
Yeah.
past where I've struggled with this, it doesn't have to be what happens this year.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can change that. You can be in control of it, and you can push forward into a positive direction.
Yeah. Which leads into the third thing, my past, but also remembering my past is important because it's shaping who I'm becoming or who I am.
Yep. Well, just letting you to remember those mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
That way you don't make them again.
Hopefully it helps you grow closer to Jesus, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you do something dumb, you're like, I shouldn't have done that, but Jesus still loves me.
Right.
So yeah, it should
Yep.
help in your sanctification. There's a big word for us today.
That is a big word. Sanctification.
And then the last thing I wrote down is that there's forgiveness for whatever I've done. I just need to remind myself of that. And that's true for anyone, right? So if you're still breathing,
Yeah.
God will forgive you no matter what you've done. I think people have trouble grasping that.
Yeah.
Like we see it all, this week is funny. You weren't at church this Sunday, right? This past Sunday?
I skipped it.
You skipped it. All
I
right.
didn't skip it. I just wasn't present.
You weren't present. You were on the online crowd.
I was.
It was probably 10 minutes before service started, which producer Blake will remember because he runs our oversees our live stream here at the church, and we had a power outage. And it was one of those where the lights flickered and they flickered again, then they went out for 20, 30 seconds. It was long enough where I'm thinking in my mind, I was like, all right,
Church is gonna be late today.
we need a contingency plan today. But then they came back on, and then I heard so many people joking, because we had some new people hadn't been to church in a while. It's New Year. Some people set resolutions. I'm going to go to church, which is great.
Yeah, church is going to burn down when I walk in.
So it's one of
Power's not gonna
those,
go
because that's
on.
when most people come into a church, especially if you're new, is about 5 to 10 minutes before.
Yeah.
So we had a few people walk in, and immediately the power just goes out everywhere, and the building's black. And see, I told you I shouldn't have came.
Yep.
I brought that up to say that I hear stuff like that all the time as a
Yeah.
pastor, and I'm constantly trying to remind people and myself is that there's forgiveness. Whatever I've done, there's forgiveness.
Remember, it's like the time I got baptized. We lost all power
We
in the
lost
church.
all power at the church.
Should have told you something right then and there.
I mean, we not only lost power at the church about burnt down.
Yeah, right.
I mean, we had the fire
Like it
department
was a
here for
legit
electrical fire.
church was going to burn down.
We had to move locations, get the horse trough. We had to go buy a horse trough.
I remember.
baptized.
We don't have to relive it all.
I love it.
I know you do.
You and
You were
buddy
preaching.
Larry.
You were preaching church on the move,
Yeah.
and we were actually a church on the move.
Yeah, we did. They built a stage for me out of milk crates.
Yeah.
That was before the milk. I bet that's what started that milk crate challenge. Have you
I
seen that?
guarantee it, yeah.
Yeah, because
They saw
They saw that sermon.
Huh, look
Yeah.
at you.
Truth is, I didn't stand on them because I stepped through one of them.
Did you really?
Yeah, it broke. So I tried to stay off of
What
it.
cheap milk crate did you buy? You weigh $1.20 soaking wet.
Yeah, I weighed a little bit more back then.
Okay, got you.
Yeah. So anything else? I mean, that's my big thing is, hey, remember, whatever you've done, it doesn't define who you are.
Yeah,
Whatever's happened in your past, that doesn't have to be what's going to happen in your future. And whatever's happened in your past is important. Like, don't forget it because it shapes who you are.
yep.
And then there's forgiveness for whatever I've done.
I like it.
And then the other thing I would just add that we talked about that to take from this is that how can your past help shape the next generation?
Yeah.
Like, how can you shape your son or daughter or
And not even the next generation, but friends and people around you.
friends, other people, shape them as
You
well?
know, a lot of people look up to you and you don't even realize it. I have people that come to me all the time and say, well, you do this, I'm going to do this, or you've
Yeah.
done that, and I'm going to start doing that. And it's like, oh, wait a second, that didn't work out so well for me. Let
Yeah.
me stop you now.
Yeah. I think it's also important, like, to get into a place where you can talk about it. So you take your life.
Yeah.
You didn't grow up reading your Bible every day.
I
I'm just
didn't.
making some assumptions.
No, yeah,
here.
yeah, go
Is
ahead.
that all right if I make a few
Yeah,
assumptions?
I'm good with it. Go ahead.
You and I grew up differently.
Yeah.
So when people know that I'm in church, they're not surprised. My dad
Right.
was a pastor. I got, the
Yeah.
first Sunday I was alive, I was 3 days old, and I was in church, and I've never missed a Sunday since.
Right.
That's my story.
Okay.
So no one's surprised.
Yep.
But when they hear you're at a church, serving in a ministry, leading a podcast, doing some things,
Yeah. They're wondering what kind of church this is.
they're thinking, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Nick Robertson, right?
Yeah.
And they get to know you, but then what's going to happen in a few years? They don't know your past. So I think it's important for you. You can go to a guy who's 30 years old, never stepped foot in the church, be like, no, dude, I've been there.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, no matter what you've done, you can
Yeah,
still be used by God.
Exactly.
So, and I think that all of us have different. I have a story that I can tell about being in a religious crowd and still
Yeah.
like, coming out of that to love all people. And so I think our past shape us to who we are.
Yep.
And so where me, I would say I have some maybe like Pharisee-like tendencies in my past, but how that God brought me through that and forgave me for those.
Yeah.
Where you may have some other stories, but we both have different people we can minister to.
Yep.
Mentor, lead. So, yeah, I think it's an important place to get to where you're helping others with.
Yeah,
that.
I agree.
So, have I offended you yet?
No, not really. All you've done is tell the truth. You know?
Yeah.
And that's not offensive. It's
It's a
something
cool
I own.
story,
Yeah,
right? I mean,
absolutely. It's something I own, and it's something that I'm constantly, daily working to to move forward and to
Yeah.
push forward. But I'm not letting the past hold me back. I'm
No.
not letting the things I've done and former things and transgressions. I'm not. That doesn't weigh me down. It's in the
Yeah.
past, and I've been forgiven for it in the end. And,
Yeah.
That's all that really matters.
And we have different people like we can invest in. Like there are
Right.
people who's going to listen to you
Yeah.
that would never listen to me. When I tell
Right.
them like, hey, you should come to church and this is what God's done in my life.
Yeah.
Like, man, you don't know what I'm talking about. Your dad was a pastor. Where
Yeah.
you can go to him and be like,
Hey, man, look.
this is what my life looked like.
Yeah, and it worked for me.
It worked for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I have friends that won't come to church, and I love that they listen to the podcast.
Yeah.
Because it helps us connect in Christianity just in a small level there.
Yeah.
They might not be interested in coming to church on a Sunday or a Wednesday night, but they will listen to this for 20, 30, 40 minutes and get something from
Yeah.
it and really take something away from it.
Well, that's what I love about. We don't talk a lot about Villa where we go to church.
Yeah.
But most our growth is coming. We've grown
Yeah.
incredible growth. Really.
yeah.
I mean, in church world, it's been great growth the last few years, and God's definitely done it because it's guys like you and I here
Yeah.
leading. So
Yeah, right. But look around too. That's the coolest thing is on a Sunday morning or a Wednesday night for me to look around. We don't fit the 50s, 60s, 70s. We don't fit our grandparents' church.
Yeah.
People. When you're looking around at the people that go to the church, we don't fit into that crowd of everybody's dressed up in suit and ties and everybody's in their. I mean, it's come as you are, and it's amazing because there's a guy that sits in the front row wears shorts and flip flops, and
Yeah.
he got long hair, and you got the suit and tie people, and you've got the people, the
Yeah.
jeans and flannel people, and we had Bill on here last week talking about him being a Tractor Supply Company
Yeah.
model, and it's so cool. But I think the hardest part for a lot of people that aren't going to go to a church is just going the first time.
Yeah.
Because you never know what you're going to run into.
You don't.
And,
I
the
love
place
that.
might actually burn down.
It may. I love that most of our growth though has come from like your average guy,
Yeah.
your average tough guy, if you would, right?
Yeah.
Who thinks I will never step foot in church, and they have,
Yep.
and now they're here serving and doing things,
Right.
and they haven't had to change. Like they're changing in their spiritual walk,
Right.
but seeing that you can still be a tough man of faith.
Exactly.
You can still like doing those things you like doing,
Yeah.
but you can serve Jesus along the way.
Yep.
So to me, that's been exciting. And that's why, I mean, that's my heart behind this podcast, right? Is there's
Yeah.
a group of guys out there
Yep.
who think that Christianity has to look a certain way.
Right.
It's like,
it
no,
has
it's
to
not.
fit the bill.
It doesn't have to fit this mold of
Right.
being like a feminine mold of Christianity. Like you
Right.
can be
You
a
can be a tough
guy
man.
who
You can
likes
yeah.
doing guy things, and you can
Exactly.
still love Jesus, and Jesus can use you just like that to
Yep.
reach other guys. So
Yep. I
love it.
heard you say one time that I will stop just short of sin
Yeah.
to get people to follow Christ.
Yeah.
And when I heard that, I thought about it, and it took me a long time. Not a long time,
Yeah.
6th grade reading level.
Sure.
But
yeah.
it took me a little while. But once I actually put it together, it's like, you know what? That's a guy. That's somebody I can get behind right there
Yeah.
and help push with him. Really cool what he's trying to do.
Yep. That's why I'm excited about this podcast. I think this
Yep.
movement's going to grow. I think there's a lot of other guys out there that fit the mold that we're in.
Yeah.
We need, you know what? We talked about Howard. We need to bring him on.
Yeah, we gotta get Howard on.
We bring him on, and then at some point we got to do some live events where we bring guys in and stuff.
Yeah.
So big plans for the future.
Don't let your past define you.
Don't let it define you,
Um,
no matter what you've done.
and don't live in the past. Look
Yep.
forward to tomorrow.
Anything else to add tonight?
Not tonight. I think we're good tonight.
All right. Been good.
Check us out on Facebook.
Share it.
Leave us a comment.
Leave
Share
a
it.
comment.
Share
Yep.
the podcast with somebody that doesn't necessarily fit the mold.
Yep.
Push it.
Sounds good. We'll see you guys next week.